Okay, so how's everybody doing? So I want to talk to you about perspective, okay? Perspective on our model railroads versus the prototype as an example. Like here's a photograph of this scene from the Alex Fraser Bridge, which is east of this. And you go up the bridge there and you look down and it's several hundred yards, probably 500 yards. You can zoom in and get a good shot of the bridge. You can see the approach and the barge slip, etc. Now, the challenge with the model railroad and the prototype, length of layout, perspective is never going to be bang on. Like you'll never be able to achieve it. You can be influenced by it, but good luck trying to get it to fit your space. You got to make compromises all the time, and then when you make compromises, you have the right to. It's your railroad, right? Like you can do whatever you want. If the railroad meets your expectations, like for example, like if I go down to this location and then I walk into this room and see my layout, I go, oh yeah, this is what I want. And I'm going to spend years if I have to make it like that, because that was the whole idea in the first place. So I don't need a big, massive, sprawling layout. As long as my layout or the footprint of it is convincing enough to me to live with and operate on, then I'm totally content. And if you're content with your railroad and your plan, you can keep it for decades and you'll be happy with it. But the one thing you'll never be happy with at times is if you cannot reconcile prototype perspective with the railroad. Like, let me give you an example. Like, see this photo here? Like, look to the right here. See this tree? Where do you think this tree in the photo is? Do you think it's this tree right here? It looks like it, right? But it's not. In fact, this perspective on the model looks longer than this, right? But that's because of the lens. Like this is a telephoto lens here. What you see here live on the layout is a standard 50 mil, okay? Or 35 to 50. So you can never really convey true perspective versus prototype on social media or with the camera. It's very, very challenging to do. Now, on the other hand, if you're standing live and you're looking at this layout from where I am, the imagination or the theater of the mind kind of blends in all that and you get lost in it. It really doesn't matter, right? Like, for example, like this tree, right, which looks like this tree, isn't at all. And on the prototype, it isn't really here. I'll just take it out for a sec, okay? Okay, so doesn't that change everything, right? So what you don't see here is this building right here is where the camera is. I just lifted out Axton Steel. This is the corner of Axton Steel. The track comes by here, like it turns and goes by Axton Steel. So I pulled it out, put the camera there so you don't see this part because the building's not there. I don't have the camera set up like here, and it wouldn't show like that anyway. You could do it, but it would take a lot of prep and work to try to set up to even achieve this kind of a look. But as you can see, it just opens up this whole area. Now this is what the prototype looks like. So if I was standing on the roof, right, of Axton Steel, this is what you would see. This kind of thing. It's not exact. Like for example, like this track right here was a parallel track way back when it served this building in another period of time, and I took it out and I pulled it out to here and I created a runaround with it, and it worked perfectly because I got a lot of space here because I'm a real fan of low track to scenery ratio because it just looks prototypical to me, and like I said, I don't need to fill all my square inches full of track. It makes no difference on your enjoyment at the end of the day in the long run, in my opinion, because I've had layouts like that. And that's fine. If that floats your boat and that's what you like, that's okay. So with perspective, and I'll just mention trees in closing, you can create that when you design your layout. Like when I designed this layout after Glover Road, like I was playing around with Glover Road, getting back into the game because I was away for a while, and I thought, when I do River Road, I'm going to design it in such a way for the camera. Now, it's pretty tough to get down where you want to get in the dirt with a camera at grade level, like right here. I mean, you can sort of get a phone if you turn it upside down and get the lens down below, but if you can, that looks really cool. and lends itself well to prototypical shots, right? But one of the more important things is the embankment, like way down here. You can see I can get onto this barge slip here, and I can take really cool shots because I can be down on the water. And the barge slip is, 12, 15 feet off the water, let's say. And down the far end, which I really love, the brewery alley that you might all be familiar with, I'll just show you a shot down there with this tree in place and how cool it looks, and without the tree, okay? Okay, so you can see how you can change and tweak the perspective to your own liking. Because in reality, there is no tree here on the prototype. But the story on River Road is, because it's actually not really called River Road, it's SRY Rail Link, and this is on Annis's Island, which is what this particular section 1 depicts. It's actually called River Drive, where their main office is. But that's the license of naming or titling your layout. You can make up your own to represent it. But the idea is when this tree was here, it was probably a sapling, 150 years ago or whatever, and it was protected. This pavement came later, and when the building was put in, it was cordoned off, and that's a common occurrence in BC. In fact, if a tree is labeled by the federal government as protected, you can't touch it. And if you do, you're up the creek, unless you get a special permit and they decide, you know how that is, right? But anyway, so the idea is that this tree can be pulled and moved with ease to get a camera in here. And it fills this spit base, this huge, large negative space with plenty left over to play with. Now I just want to mention the size of the tree in closing. So some have said in the past, and I get why they say it, like I'm not criticizing them, I'm just saying that, oh, your trees are too big. Okay. So my trees are too big. So I model in the Pacific Northwest, right? Pacific Northwest is where River Road is, and SRY Rail Link, okay? And this tree that I just modeled right here can grow to 60 meters high, all right? So if you want to know how tall it is, here's the specs, okay? So this is a Western red cedar, and they grow up to 60 meters high. This tree clearly is not 60 meters high. It's actually 112 feet high. So 60 meters is 196 feet. That's 23.5 inches tall in HO. Now that's not practical for most people, right? And none of my trees are even near that. My tallest tree I think is 18 inches. This one is 15.5 inches tall. So no, the tree's not too big. Okay, so, and all my trees are not too big. In fact, most of the trees on River Road are modeled after prototypes, and they're smaller than the prototype. But just in closing them with perspective, like you can never really know for sure, like if the perspective is going to meet the prototype or vice versa. But the point is you should have fun with it. And prototypical influence is important, especially with the shelf layout, because you're building on a smaller footprint and you want to be engaged, like you want to stay interested, you want to feel immersed in it. And I find that all the articles that have been written, I've given thumbs up to all those that talked about planning and prototypical influences when you model a railroad. Not just generally model railroading, because I mean a collector can be called a model railroad if they buy a train and stick it on a layout. I'm talking about the traditional term, which is not irrelevant, about modeling a railroad, right? And you can do that freelance and whimsical too. I'm not saying that you have to do it prototypically, but there is a difference when you model a railroad and how it will engage you and take you, like the long run. And it'll teach you about perspective, because when you model a prototypical scene like this, let's say, it'll affect how you model at the end of the day, okay? Cheers, and I hope you have a great day.